Okay, let's unpack this. I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you are running 20 miles.
Right.
Your muscles are just, they're micro-tearing with literally every single step.
Yeah, that sounds painful.
It is, and your cellular energy is completely eradicated. And then, without any warning at all, your body just forcefully and involuntarily shuts down.
Wow.
You literally cannot take another step. And, elite athletes, they actually call this biological collapse hitting a wall.
Right, hitting a wall.
But so the question I have is, why do we use this exact same, extreme athletic phrase to describe like a random Tuesday afternoon in a marketing department?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Because the language we use to describe our daily professional lives is, well, it's incredibly revealing, actually.
Yeah.
And often it's quite brutal. I mean, it really reveals this profound normalization of suffering in the modern workplace.
Absolutely, because usually when society talks about, extreme professional success, the vocabulary is super triumphant, right?
Right, exactly. It's the language of conquest.
Yeah.
Building empires,
Yeah.
Acquiring targets, capturing market share. It sounds very heroic.
Totally, like an action movie or something.
Exactly. But when you examine the linguistic underbelly of that success, like the actual lived experience of the people who are executing those tasks, the vocabulary takes a very, very dark turn.
And that is actually the entire mission of our deep dive today. We are pivoting entirely away from that shiny, victorious language of corporate conquest.
Which is so needed.
Right. So our single source material today is this fascinating set of excerpts from a masterclass. And it was originally titled C2 English Masterclass, Escaping the Corporate Rat Race.
That's a heavy title.
It really is.
Yeah.
But I want to be clear to you, the listener, this isn't just like a simple vocabulary lesson on how to close a sale or negotiate a big merger.
No, not at all.
We are looking at the highly specific, just incredibly intense metaphors that we use to articulate the dark side of ambition.
Right. We're talking about the language of burnout, the language of, setting mental health boundaries, and really that desperate, often sort of hidden desire for just a normal life.
Exactly. And the premise here, according to the source, is that modern society is deeply, deeply obsessed with productivity.
Right. And wealth accumulation.
Yes, exactly. We are conditioned to just relentlessly climb. But the thing is, human bodies and human minds, they eventually demand a break.
They have to, whether you schedule one or not.
Exactly. Your body will take the break for you. And so the linguistic choices we make to describe that breaking point, they're vital to understand.
They really are. Because if you lack the precise vocabulary to, articulate the trap that you're currently in, negotiating your way out of it becomes almost impossible.
It really does. So whether you are prepping for a massive presentation or maybe you're trying to navigate your own slightly precarious work-life balance right now.
Which, let's be honest, most of us are.
Right, exactly. Or even if you're just insanely curious about the psychological weight of these advanced English idioms, these phrases really matter.
They give you the tools.
Yes. Mastering this specific subset of language, it gives you the tools to discuss mental health gracefully.
Right.
It allows you to explain to your colleagues or your family, or honestly, just explain to yourself why you need to step away.
And what's fascinating here is how the source material organizes these concepts. It's actually brilliant.
Oh, totally.
It moves to distinct phases of burnout, right? So it starts with the psychological realization of being trapped.
Well, oh no moment.
Exactly. And then it moves into the literal physical breakdown of the body. Then it explores the financial mechanisms that kind of keep us stuck in that place.
Well, it's just the worst part, honestly.
It is. And then finally, it maps out the linguistic path to, actual escape and rebirth.
So let's just jump right into that first phase, right? The realization that the system might be, fundamentally rigged.
Yeah, let's do it.
The source uses this intense animal psychology to illustrate the genesis of corporate burnout. And the most ubiquitous metaphor for this is undoubtedly the rat race.
Ah, yes. The rat race.
We've all heard it.
We have. And the term itself gained massive traction in the mid-20th century, right? It was running completely parallel to the rise of the modern corporate commuter culture.
Right, everyone getting on the train to the city.
Exactly. But to really grasp the weight of the metaphor, you kind of have to strip away the casual way we toss it around today.
Because we use it all the time.
Right, like, I'm just back in the rat race. But look at the clinical imagery it actually evokes. It places human behavior squarely into the context of a laboratory experiment.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You have rats frantically navigating a complex artificial labyrinth.
An artificial labyrinth, yeah, that's such a good point.
Right, someone built it.
Yeah.
And these rats, they're in constant aggressive competition with one another. They're exhausting their physical reserves solely to reach a tiny, predetermined reward.
The cheese.
The cheese, exactly.
Right, and so applying that to the human condition, the corporate hierarchy is the maze.
Yeah.
Your colleagues, the people sitting next to you, they're the competing rats.
Right.
And the cheese is, well, it's the next promotion, right? Or the corner office, or just that end-of-year bonus you're desperate for.
Exactly. And the people designing the maze, the scientists looking down from above.
Those with the clipboards.
Right. They represent the broader economic system that actively benefits from that frantic competitive energy.
Oh, that is so bleak.
It is. The idiom perfectly encapsulates a highly cynical view of city life and corporate ambition. It really suggests that it's a fierce, monotonous, and ultimately totally unrewarding struggle.
Okay, but wait, I do have to push back on this framing a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
Are we just defaulting to a purely cynical view of ambition here? Because, competition isn't inherently evil, right?
No, not at all.
Like the so-called rat race, it drove the Industrial Revolution, it built the internet, it pushes medical research forward,
That's a very fair point.
So without that fiercely competitive drive, wouldn't human progress essentially just stall out? Why are we framing the desire to succeed strictly as a trap?
That's a crucial distinction, actually. And the source material hinges on that exact nuance.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, it does. Because the idiom isn't necessarily a critique of human progress on a macro level, right?
Yeah.
It's not saying society shouldn't advance.
Okay, I see.
Instead, it's a description of the subjective psychological experience of the individual worker.
Ah, okay. The internal feeling.
Exactly. The rat race describes the moment a person experiences what the source calls the realization of emptiness.
The realization of emptiness. Wow.
It's intense, right? It's the moment you look at so the promotion you literally just spent 5 years fighting your peers for.
Right.
And you realize the reward is completely disproportionate to the life energy you just expended to get it.
That is a heavy concept because it's not just, being tired. It's a sudden total loss of meaning.
Exactly. You see this all the time in real world scenarios.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the classic narrative from the source material, right? The person who spends 20 years commuting into a financial district.
Yeah, the classic grind.
Grinding out these grueling 60-hour work weeks. For 2 whole decades, they are like the fastest rat in the maze.
They're winning the race.
Right. And then, one random Tuesday, the realization of emptiness hits.
It just drops on them.
Yeah, and they just walk away from this incredibly lucrative career to, open a quiet, low-margin bakery in a beach town.
Right, which we see happen, quite often.
Yeah.
And that bakery represents a total rejection of the maze.
Right, they're just opting out entirely.
Exactly. It's a conscious opting out of the competitive struggle. However, the source points out that before an individual actually reaches that dramatic exit point, they usually find themselves grappling with a different animal metaphor first.
Oh, right. Because if the rat race is about external competition,
right,
or fighting the other rats,
yeah,
the next phase is characterized by this internal repetitive stagnation.
Yes.
You find yourself on a hamster wheel.
A hamster wheel. It's such a fascinating kinetic metaphor, isn't it?
It really is, because the mechanics of a hamster wheel are completely different from the mechanics of a maze.
Exactly.
Like in a maze, you are at least navigating toward an exit or a prize or something, right?
So the destination.
Right. But on a hamster wheel, you are expending an immense amount of kinetic energy. Your legs are moving as absolutely fast as possible, but your forward distance traveled is absolute zero.
Zero distance.
Yeah.
The physics of the metaphor are really what make it so devastating.
Yeah.
Because in the corporate context, being on a hamster wheel means you are applying maximum effort to repetitive daily tasks, but without making any meaningful progress.
Right.
Not in your career, not in your personal development, not in your life. You are moving frantically, but you're completely stationary.
It's like the modern inbox. Think about it. The knowledge worker's daily reality is the ultimate hamster wheel.
Oh, inbox zero is a myth.
It's a total myth. You spend 3 hours every morning answering hundreds of emails.
Just typing away.
Yeah, you're typing, you're sorting, delegating, putting out little fires everywhere. You feel incredibly busy and your stress levels are absolutely peaking, right?
spiking through the roof.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, you haven't actually created anything new. You haven't solved a fundamental problem.
No.
And the next morning, the inbox is just completely full again. The wheel just keeps spinning.
And that highlights the key psychological distinction the source material is making here.
Which is?
Well, the rat race induces stress through relentless competition with others.
Right.
But the hamster wheel induces a deep existential fatigue through the sheer futility of the repetition.
Futility.
You aren't fighting a competitor anymore. You're fighting the nature of the work itself.
Okay, so combining those two concepts leads me to an incredibly bleak question, actually.
I'm ready.
Looking at the trajectory of modern corporate structures, are we forcing workers to play the roles of both the rat and the hamster simultaneously?
Oh, wow.
Because think about it. You fight tooth and nail through this incredibly complex maze just to win a promotion.
Right, you beat the other rats.
Exactly. But what is the actual reward for beating them? Usually the promotion is literally just a spot on a faster, heavier, more demanding stationary wheel.
That is wild.
You fought the other rats just to win a bigger hamster wheel.
That synthesis captures the exact psychological toll this vocabulary is designed to articulate. I mean, when you realize that winning the race simply means you are now obligated to run faster in place.
Yeah.
The exhaustion transcends the physical. It becomes a systemic entrapment.
It's a trap.
It is. And the human brain is highly adept at recognizing futile situations, even if we, try to ignore them.
Or try so hard to ignore them.
We do. But when the psychological realization actually sets in, the physical body inevitably follows suit.
Which naturally brings us to the physical reality of staying in that trapped state, right? Because the mind can only force the body to spin the wheel for so long.
Right. There are biological limits.
Exactly. So when we transition from the psychological realization of the trap to the literal physical breakdown of the individual, our source material notes this fascinating shift in the metaphors.
Right. We leave the animals behind.
Yeah. We leave the realm of animal psychology entirely, and we enter the domain of mechanical failure and physiological limits.
The vocabulary shifts from describing the external environment, the maze, the wheel,
right,
to describing the internal state of the worker.
Right.
And to capture the severity of that internal depletion, the English language borrows heavily from automotive mechanics.
Which is so interesting.
It is. The most evocative phrase for this state is running on fumes.
Running on fumes. Let's really break down the actual mechanism of that metaphor because it's brilliant.
It really is.
Because, when a car's gas tank hits empty, the combustible liquid, like the actual tangible fuel designed to power the internal combustion engine, is completely depleted.
Right. The tank is bone dry.
Exactly. The liquid is gone.
However, the engine doesn't simply turn off the millisecond the liquid is gone.
No, it doesn't.
Inside the tank and the fuel lines, there are still these residual vapors, right? The fumes from the evaporated gasoline.
Right.
The mechanics of the engine will desperately pull those lingering vapors in, which allows the vehicle to continue operating for a short distance.
But, and this is key, the performance is severely compromised.
Oh, heavily.
The engine is sputtering, it's shaking, it's a highly volatile, unpredictable state.
Right.
And translating that to human neurochemistry, when someone is running on fumes in a professional setting, their baseline physical and mental energy is entirely gone. The liquid fuel is totally depleted. So what is keeping them awake and functioning isn't healthy energy. It's the residual vapors of pure willpower, or honestly, more accurately, it's just a toxic cocktail of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline.
Exactly. They are essentially operating in a prolonged state of fight or flight.
Which is so bad for you.
It's terrible for you. And the danger of running on fumes, both for a car and a human being, is the unpredictability of the stall.
Right? You never know when it's going to just die.
Exactly. You cannot accurately predict the exact moment the engine will seize. It could be in 10 minutes or, you might barely make it through the week.
Right.
But the total collapse is a mathematical certainty unless you pull over and refuel.
I mean, think about the classic scenario of like a mid-level manager trying to close a massive merger. The source talks about this woman, Sarah, right?
Yes, the Sarah example.
Let's say she's been pulling 14-hour days for a month.
A month of 14-hour days.
Yeah. She hasn't had a full night of deep REM sleep in weeks.
Her brain is starved.
It is. So when she sits down in a meeting on a Friday afternoon, Her cognitive function is severely impaired.
Severely.
If you ask her a complex analytical question, you can almost see the mental engine struggling to catch a spark. She is running entirely on fumes.
And if that manager refuses to acknowledge the state of her fuel gauge, I mean, if she just keeps pushing the accelerator to the floor despite the engine sputtering, which we all do, right? We just push harder.
Yeah.
We do. But if she does that, she will inevitably trigger our next idiom.
Right.
She will hit a wall.
Which takes us right back to that jarring contrast we opened the deep dive with, right?
Yeah.
We leave the world of heavy automotive machinery and we enter the world of extreme human endurance sports. The marathon.
The marathon. And the biology underlying the hitting a wall metaphor is critical to understand why we use it for burnout.
Okay, let's hear the biology.
So in endurance running, the human body primarily burns glycogen for energy.
Glycogen.
Right. But the average human body can only store enough glycogen to fuel roughly 18 to 20 miles of intense running.
Okay.
At that exact point, the reserves are completely biologically exhausted.
And a marathon is 26.2 miles.
Exactly.
So right at mile 20, you have over 6 miles left to run, and your cellular fuel tank simply ceases to exist.
It's gone. And the physiological response to total glycogen depletion is not, a graceful, gradual decrease in speed.
You don't just naturally slow down.
No, it is a catastrophic systemic shutdown. Wow. Runners experience this sudden, overwhelming wave of physical and mental fatigue. The brain actively tries to stop the body from moving to prevent permanent organ damage.
It's literally trying to save your life.
Yes. And it literally feels as though you have run headfirst into a solid, immovable brick wall. Forward progress instantly becomes impossible.
So we take this extreme biological event, the literal self-preservation mechanism of a dying cellular system,
Right.
and we apply it to modern knowledge work.
Yes.
In a business context, hitting a wall means reaching a point of absolute cognitive and physical burnout where you cannot generate another idea.
You're just empty.
You cannot process another email. You try to brainstorm a marketing strategy for 6 hours straight, and suddenly the creativity just evaporates.
It's just gone.
You look at your screen and the words literally lose their meaning.
And here's the thing. The only biological remedy for hitting a wall, whether you're on a marathon course or in a boardroom, is immediate cessation of the activity and deep restorative rest.
You have to stop.
You have to. You cannot willpower your way through a wall.
But okay, let's pause and look at the cultural implications of this vocabulary, right? Because this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, let's look at the bigger picture.
We are utilizing the imagery of internal combustion engines dangerously stalling out on a highway.
Right.
We are utilizing the biological reality of extreme, elite human endurance failure.
Yeah.
We are deploying this incredibly severe language to describe sitting in an ergonomically designed chair in a climate-controlled office.
It's wild.
Mm-hmm.
But what it reveals is a profound truth about modern corporate culture.
What is that?
By seamlessly integrating these extreme metaphors into our everyday vocabulary, we are subtly acknowledging that modern work treats human energy not as a renewable resource, but as a consumable, burnable commodity.
A burnable commodity?
Wow. Yeah. We inherently expect employees to function with the relentless output of heavy machinery and the pain tolerance of elite marathon runners.
We just expect it as the baseline.
Exactly. And conversely, we are completely unsurprised when they inevitably break down. The language normalizes the destruction.
It really does. We have baked the expectation of mechanical failure into our very definition of success.
We have.
But, this raises a massive, glaring logical problem.
Okay, what's that?
Well, if the subjective experience of the corporate world is this painful, if people are, trapped in a labyrinth, spinning on a futile wheel, operating their neurochemistry on toxic fumes, and repeatedly smashing their cognition into brick walls.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Why don't they just leave?
It is the most rational question an outsider could ask.
Right.
If the pain of the maze is so acute, why not just walk out the door?
And the source material provides an answer that is simultaneously brilliant and, frankly, deeply depressing.
It introduces one of the most sophisticated C2 level idioms in the English language, actually.
It does.
A phrase that seamlessly blends the harsh, punitive reality of the criminal justice system with the glittering, seductive allure of extreme wealth.
Which is quite the combination.
It is. People do not leave the maze because they are restrained by golden handcuffs.
Golden handcuffs. The conceptual juxtaposition in this metaphor is stunning.
It really is.
Because think about the reality of handcuffs in the justice system.
Right.
They are heavy, interlocking metal rings securely fastened around an individual's wrists by an external authority figure.
Exact.
They are the ultimate physical manifestation of captivity, a total removal of personal autonomy. You cannot leave.
You are stuck. But in this specific corporate metaphor, the restraints are not forged from cold, rusty steel.
No.
They are cast in solid, gleaming gold.
Gold.
Yes. Gold and handcuffs refer to financial incentive structures that are so incredibly lucrative, an employee feels it is economically impossible to leave a job they otherwise absolutely despise.
And the mechanics of these handcuffs, they are very deliberate, aren't they?
Very deliberate.
Like, we aren't just talking about a high baseline salary here.
No, not at all. Gold or handcuffs are usually structured specifically to penalize departure.
Oh, that's nefarious.
It is. We are talking about massive stock options with 3-year vesting cliffs, right?
Right.
Where if you leave a day early, you get nothing.
Right.
We are talking about year-end bonuses that require you to stay just one more quarter. Just one more quarter.
Just always just one more quarter.
Exactly. We are talking about luxury, fully funded health insurance plans that your family has grown dependent on.
Which is huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
The financial reward is always dangled just slightly in the future. It's continually resetting the countdown clock on when the employee can supposedly afford to leave.
It's like the donkey with the carrot on the stick.
Exactly like that.
Consider the example from the source of the corporate lawyer, right?
Yeah.
The guy who is utterly miserable.
Oh, yeah, the lawyer example.
He hates the cutthroat culture. He despises the 80-hour weeks, and he is deeply unfulfilled.
He hates his life.
Yeah. And his actual passion, the thing that would genuinely give his life meaning, is teaching music.
What?
But he looks at his unvested equity. You know, he looks at the private school tuition he's paying for his kids, and he realizes the golden handcuffs are locked tight.
They click shut.
He cannot walk away from that level of wealth. So he is a prisoner, but he's a spectacularly wealthy prisoner.
And this idiom is vital to understand because if we connect this to the bigger picture, it fundamentally shifts the narrative of burnout and captivity.
How so?
Well, when you are in the rat race, the maze is an external structure built by society.
Right, the scientists built it.
Exactly. When you are running on fumes, the relentless workload is often imposed by a demanding boss.
Yeah.
But the concept of golden handcuffs introduces a very heavy layer of complicity.
Complicity. That is the brilliant contradiction of it right there.
Yeah.
Because in our society, we are aggressively conditioned to equate wealth with freedom.
Always.
Money is supposed to buy you autonomy, it buys you choices, and the ability to dictate your own reality. But in the paradigm of the golden handcuffs, wealth is the exact mechanism of your captivity. The goal is the trap.
And it forces the individual to confront their own role in their misery, right?
Yeah, that's hard to face.
Because the authority figure didn't permanently lock the handcuffs. The individual chooses to put them on every single morning.
Wow.
It is a self-imposed prison fueled by lifestyle creep and, honestly, the fear of downward mobility.
The fear of losing the status.
Exactly. The reluctance to surrender financial luxury creates a psychological barrier that makes stepping off the hamster wheel exponentially harder.
Because you'd have to give up the nice house, the nice car.
Right. You can no longer simply blame a cruel corporate machine. You have to take responsibility for your own attachment to the gold.
Ouch. That is a tough pill to swallow. But as we established in the previous section, biology eventually wins every negotiation.
It always does.
The golden handcuffs might provide enough financial incentive to keep you sitting at your desk.
Yeah.
But they cannot artificially synthesize glycogen.
No, they can't.
They cannot magically deposit liquid fuel back into an exhausted neurochemical engine.
Money can't buy cellular energy.
Exactly. So eventually the body forces a hard stop. And when you hit that wall, taking a standard, 2-day weekend to watch television on your couch, it is not going to repair the damage.
Not even close. A systemic breakdown requires a systemic intervention.
Yes.
You cannot simply pause the rat race. You have to actively exit the maze.
Right.
Which brings us to the source material's vocabulary for genuine escape. The concepts of deliberate disconnection and cognitive deceleration.
Deliberate disconnection. Because the ultimate boundary for preserving work-life balance, according to this advanced vocabulary, is the decision to go off the grid.
Going off the grid. It's a modern idiom that perfectly blends electrical engineering with geographic mapping.
Right.
And to understand the depth of the metaphor, you have to consider what the grid actually is.
Okay, what is the grid?
It is the massive, invisibly ubiquitous, interconnected network of public utilities.
Like power lines and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the electrical grid that powers our infrastructure, the subterranean network of fiber optic internet cables, and, of course, the overlapping web of cellular towers that blankets the modern world.
Right. So in real estate terms, if you describe like a cabin in the woods as being off the grid,
Yeah.
it means the structure is entirely self-sufficient.
It has its own power, its own water.
Exactly. It isn't plugged into the city's power lines or water mains. It exists completely independently of the overarching system.
So when a human being decides to go off the grid idiomatically, they are attempting to replicate the independence of that isolated cabin.
Right.
It is a commitment to making oneself entirely unreachable. It means a total, uncompromising disconnection from corporate communications, social media, and just the incessant demands of the digital network.
I mean, imagine preparing for a 2-week vacation
Yes.
and you send a final email to your team that says, I will not be checking email. I will not be responding to text. For the next 14 days, my phone will be powered off and literally buried at the bottom of my luggage.
That sounds terrifying for some people.
It really does. Or perhaps you deliberately choose a vacation destination, like a remote mountain trail where cellular service physically cannot penetrate.
Right, forcing the issue.
Yes, the objective is total isolation from the systemic demands that drained your fuel in the first place.
However, this raises an important question, right? A profound, modern dilemma.
Which is,
Truly, going off the grid is becoming functionally impossible in the 21st century.
oh yeah,
It is no longer a simple matter of geography.
because there's Wi-Fi everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't have to retreat to a physical cabin to be off the grid. And conversely, you can be sitting in a remote cabin in the deepest forest and still be entirely tethered to the grid if you bring a satellite internet connection and a laptop.
That is so true. Escaping the grid is no longer a spatial challenge. It is a behavioral and psychological challenge.
Entirely.
It requires setting aggressive emotional and digital boundaries to protect your peace. You have to actively choose isolation in a world that, quite frankly, demands constant connectivity.
And achieving that disconnection is vital because it creates the necessary psychological space for the next crucial step in recovery.
Right.
Once you are shielded from the constant influx of external demands, your brain finally has the opportunity to do the hard work of shifting gears.
Shifting gears.
Yeah.
Now we are back to the automotive metaphors, right?
Yeah,
But the specific mechanics here are just beautiful because we are not talking about a modern automatic transmission that just seamlessly adjusts to your speed.
No, absolutely not.
We are talking about a manual transmission, the stick shift.
The physical mechanics of a manual transmission are the entire point of the metaphor here.
Okay, lay it out for us.
When you are driving a manual vehicle on an open highway, right, traveling at high speeds,
Yeah.
you have the car in fifth gear.
Right?
The engine is operating at a high, sustained RPM to maintain that rapid forward momentum.
But you can't drive in fifth gear forever.
No, you can't.
Eventually, you take the exit. You leave the chaotic high-speed highway and you merge into a quiet, winding residential neighborhood.
Right.
And the critical thing here is that the car will not adjust itself.
Exactly.
If you try to drive slowly while still in fifth gear, the engine will stall. You have to physically intervene.
You have to do the work.
Yeah, you have to depress the clutch, disengaging the engine from the transmission, manually move the stick, and shift gears down to second gear so you can navigate the new, slower environment smoothly and safely.
And metaphorically, shifting gears refers to the conscious, deliberate act of changing your cognitive pace,
Your cognitive pace.
your emotional approach, or your mental focus. In the context of recovering from burnout, it means actively transitioning your brain from a state of high-stress, rapid-fire processing.
So living in fifth gear on the corporate highway.
Exactly. Transitioning from that to a state of relaxation and presence.
And this is where the metaphor hits home so deeply for anyone listening who historically struggles to relax on vacation.
Oh, yeah. So many people struggle with this.
Because shifting gears is a manual action. It does not happen automatically the second you walk out of the office building or the second you step onto a plane.
That is the tragedy of the modern vacation.
It really is.
People take their bodies off the grid, right? They fly to an island, but they completely forget to manually downshift their minds.
Right. They're sitting on the beach in fifth gear.
Exactly. The stress hormones don't just instantly evaporate because your geographical location changed.
The source material highlights the psychological friction perfectly. It notes that it frequently takes a high-performing professional at least 3 full days into a vacation to genuinely shift gears and stop ruminating on their corporate responsibilities.
3 full days. That's almost half a 1-week vacation.
Exactly. For the first 72 hours, you might be physically sitting on a tropical beach, but internally, your neural pathways are still revving in 5th gear, stressing about, I don't know, a supply chain issue or a quarterly report.
Or consider the transition of just a regular weekend getaway.
Okay.
You drive from a chaotic city center to a quiet lake house on a Friday evening.
Right.
The physical drive might only take 2 hours, but the mental downshift, the process of forcing your brain to transition from the frantic survival energy of the hamster wheel to the peaceful, slower rhythm of the lake, is an active, effortful process.
It takes work.
It takes so much work. You have to consciously engage the cognitive clutch. You have to force yourself to breathe slower, to notice your surroundings, and to systematically let go of that artificial urgency you've been carrying all week.
So let's look the full arc of the journey we've taken today.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. You've achieved the realization of emptiness and recognized the rat race.
Right.
You felt the dangerous sputtering of running on fumes.
Yeah.
You've acknowledged the heavy weight of the golden handcuffs. You've bravely forced yourself off the digital grid. And you've done the really hard cognitive work of manually shifting your gears.
That's a lot of work.
It is. But if you manage to survive all of that, we arrive at the final stage of our deep dive. The ultimate result of escaping the grind.
The psychological rebirth. The reward for navigating the collapse.
Yes. And the advanced English vocabulary our source material provides to describe this profound, beautiful spiritual awakening is astonishingly rooted entirely in a bureaucratic legal framework.
Which is so funny.
It's wild. When you escape the corporate maze and rediscover your peace, the language says you return with a new lease on life.
A new lease on life. It is a direct real estate and legal metaphor.
A legal metaphor for joy.
Exactly. Because a lease, in its literal definition, is a formal, binding rental contract for a piece of property, right?
Right.
Whether it's a residential apartment or a commercial storefront, it dictates the exact terms of your occupation. And crucially, a lease has a definitive expiration date.
It ends.
When the term ends, your legal right to occupy that space ceases to exist. You are obligated to pack up your life and vacate the premises.
Your time in that space is officially over. You're just out of options.
However, if the property owner decides to grant you a new lease, your entire reality shifts instantly.
Right, you get to stay.
You are granted formal contractual permission to remain. You can unpack your boxes, you can paint the walls, you can renovate, and you can enjoy living in that space with a sense of security for years to come.
So we translate this dry legal document into a profound psychological state.
Yes.
Idiomatically, acquiring a new lease on life means experiencing a massive revitalizing surge of energy, enthusiasm, and purpose.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is. It is the ultimate sensation of a fresh start, and it almost exclusively follows a period of extreme hardship, such as severe professional burnout, a brush with mortality, or, surviving a major illness.
It perfectly captures the feeling of having been granted a second chance that you didn't necessarily expect to receive.
Right.
The source text actually provides some highly resonant examples of this.
Oh, like the executive.
Exactly. Think of the executive who was completely running on fumes. Right? Yeah. Whose engine was on the verge of sailing.
Yeah.
He finally manages to break the golden handcuffs, quits the high-pressure firm, moves to a smaller town, and rediscovers a forgotten passion for teaching or maybe painting.
Right.
That drastic structural life change granted him a new lease on life.
Or, the professional who recognizes they're about to hit a wall and preemptively takes a 6-month sabbatical.
Which is so smart.
Right. They step entirely off the grid. They manually shift their cognitive gears way down to walking speed, and they return to their existence not just rested, but fundamentally transformed.
They have a completely new lease on life.
Yes. But, we really have to examine the profound linguistic irony of this phrase.
The reliance on the language of real estate to describe a spiritual awakening.
Yes. We are attempting to articulate one of the most beautiful, deeply emotional experiences a human being can have, right? A return to joy, creativity, and inner peace.
Right.
And the idiom we have collectively agreed to use to describe this rebirth is a bureaucratic, transactional rental contract.
It is incredibly ironic, but, it is also the perfect synthesis of the entire linguistic arc we've explored today.
Really? How so?
If you look at the entire journey, The language is incredibly consistent. We began with the systemic anxiety and entrapment of the hamster wheel and the rat race.
Right, the maze.
Then we moved into the contractual imprisonment of the golden handcuffs.
The ultimate architectures of corporate control.
Exactly. Then we witnessed the physiological collapse expressed through the failure of industrial machinery, so running on fumes and hitting walls.
Yeah.
And finally, the ultimate redemption, the psychological fresh start, is articulated through the exact same bureaucratic language of contracts and property negotiations that caused the burnout in the first place.
Oh, wow.
We're utilizing the language of the system to describe our liberation from the system.
That is a staggering observation. We never actually leave the vocabulary of the adult transactional world, do we?
We don't.
Even our most profound freedom is framed as a successfully renegotiated contract.
We don't revert to the innocent language of childhood to describe our peace.
Mm-hmm.
We use mature, structural, bureaucratic metaphors because the peace we have achieved was hard-fought against those exact structures. The language reflects the battle.
Wow. So, bringing this all together, what does this mean for you listening to this deep dive right now?
Right. What's the takeaway?
Why is it so important that we spent all this time dissecting the linguistics of rats, hamsters, empty gas tanks, and rental agreements? Well, the overarching lesson from our source text is clear. Mastering these complex idioms does significantly more than just validate a C2 level of English fluency.
Absolutely. Fluency is merely the mechanical application of the words.
Right.
What this specific vocabulary actually provides is a robust framework for high-level emotional intelligence.
Exactly. It equips you with the precise, universally understood tools to become highly articulate about your own internal state.
Yeah.
It empowers you to gracefully but firmly assert your own mental and physical boundaries in a professional culture that is, let's face it, designed to relentlessly extract your energy.
It really is.
When you have the language to look at your supervisor and accurately articulate, I am running on fumes and I am dangerously close to hitting a wall, you are demanding respect for your physiological limits without sounding like you are simply complaining.
And there is immense psychological power in naming the invisible forces acting upon you.
Oh, definitely.
Accurately identifying your golden handcuffs strips away some of their mystique and forces you to analyze your own choices.
Right.
Recognizing that you are running on a hamster wheel is the required first step to consciously deciding to stop running. You cannot escape a trap until you can accurately describe its dimensions.
The masterclass material leaves its students with a fantastic, highly practical call to reflection, and I want to pose this directly to you. Have you ever analyzed your own compensation and realized you were quietly trapped by golden handcuffs?
It's a tough question.
It is. Have you ever looked objectively at your daily routine and realized you were sprinting on a hamster wheel, expending massive kinetic energy, but going absolutely nowhere?
And critically, when you recognize the warning signs that you are running on fumes, what is your deliberate personal strategy to shift gears?
Right. How do you do it?
How do you manually engage your psychological clutch and force your mind to slow down before you smash headfirst into a biological wall?
It is a question that requires deep, intentional thought because the system is certainly not going to shift those gears for you.
No, it won't.
The corporate maze is explicitly designed to keep the rats running.
And that leads me to a final, somewhat provocative thought I'd like to leave you with.
Okay, let's hear it.
Building directly on that real estate metaphor we dissected at the end.
The lease.
Right. If escaping the corporate grind, surviving the maze, and avoiding the wall ultimately just grants us a new lease on life, it implies something rather unsettling about our fundamental existence.
What does it imply?
By definition, a lease means you are not the owner.
Oh.
It implies that we are simply renting our time, our energy, and our joy on this earth.
Wow. That frames the entire human experience as a temporary transaction.
It forces us to ask a very difficult philosophical question. In a modern society built entirely on productivity and commerce, is it ever actually possible to truly own our lives?
That's heavy.
Or are we, even in our happiest, most liberated, most peaceful moments, simply negotiating slightly better rental terms with the world around us?
Negotiating better rental terms with the world. That is a concept that is going to stay with me for a very long time. We started this deep dive talking about how the language of extreme success sounds like an aggressive action movie.
Yeah.
But I think the language of finding peace, of acknowledging your limits and stepping off the wheel is infinitely more complex and honestly, a lot braver.
I agree completely.
You have to be willing to look at the diagnostic scan of your own burnout, identify the systemic traps, and boldly admit that the engine needs to rest. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take a moment to look at your own internal dashboard today. Check your fuel gauge, be honest about your speed, keep practicing the art of setting your boundaries, always aggressively protect your peace, and please, actually, no ellipses there. Let me rephrase that. And please, do not be afraid to force yourself totally off the grid once in a while. We'll see you next time.